I hit rock bottom that day. I drank all the time, not just drinking. There was drugs. There's just a lot of money. We were going on trips, throwing money around, yachts on Lake Washington, that kind of thing. I was not even out of the parking lot when the cops were right there, and they pulled me over and they were like, so I said, F you to... Welcome to Intrepid Storytelling, where the brave, the courageous, the dauntless, and the resolutely fearless share their journeys of hope, grit, and transformation. These are the voices of the valiant, those who dare to rise, to dream, and to tell their truth out loud. Because every story has the power to inspire, and yours just might change the world. I'm your host, Deanna Powell.
Deanna Powell is the host of the new podcast, Intrepid Storytelling. She is also a real estate agent with the Intrepid home team. Welcome, Deanna.
Thank you so much for having me.
It was so fun to meet you and hear your story and all the amazing things that you're doing. So why don't you just start by telling us a little bit about your real estate and then about your podcast?
Sure. So real estate's in my blood. I grew up listening to chainsaws and land developing going on all around me. My grandpa was a land developer in Northern California, and he did real estate. My dad did a little bit of real estate here and there, but mostly he was a teacher. But I kind of was drop kicked into the industry through a temp agency right out of high school. I started as a temp in the mortgage industry and just kind of got my feet wet doing some marketing there. And then, I don't know, it's one of those things real estate agents say, once you're in, you're in. You can't really escape it. You try other things and you keep coming back. But I love it. When you love what you do, it doesn't feel like work. So I love it.
And then you have the arm of what you do with the same name, and it's your podcast, and it all started with a vision. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so going back to the word intrepid, and it was a couple years ago, and I heard that word, and I had to look it up because I was like, I know that word has some meaning and some power to it. But when I realized it means bold, courageous, resolutely fearless, valiant, dauntless. I mean, all the things that I feel like I embody after all the little, like 9 lives that I've basically lived through. So, and I just get knocked down, keep getting back up, never give up, quitting's not an option, that sort of thing. And so I love that word intrepid. So I named my business in real estate after Intrepid, but then sort of nothing that has to do with any of my professional life is my story of growing up, my story of hitting rock bottom, some of these things. So that's where the idea of telling my story sort of came into like fruition. I told my story after, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we get into it. But as I told my story, I realized there's freedom in it. There's freedom in letting go of some of the things you keep inside and the shame gets lifted off of some of the things you think you have shame about in your story. And then you realize, oh, that's gone now, And what I did not expect from telling my story, because I really was just trying to get out in front of all the rumors that were going on behind my back. I wanted to tell my story the way it was supposed to be told, not somebody else's telling my story. And I realized, wow, I had all these people calling me saying, thank you so much for sharing. I've been going through the same thing. I needed to hear that. I didn't realize there was that resource or this resource that I could call. I mean, thank you so much for sharing. And then I just realized I was inspiring people. You're such an inspiration. I thought, what? Me? My story? And it really built my confidence when I really needed it the most. You put your story out there and you're raw and vulnerable. And then you just go, well, let the chips fall where they may. But you don't realize how many people hear your story and then support you. And I keep going back to a quote by Brené Brown. where she says in one of her books, her many amazing books, she says, "You cannot be fully loved until you are fully known." And that just, whoa. Yeah. Until you really bear every single part of you for another person to see, or even the world to see, they can't really fully love you. They can't really fully accept you, respect you, just all of the things that you know in your heart you deserve. And so I almost feel like, not an obligation, but that's not the right word, but it feels like that a little bit. Your story is meant to be told. It's not meant to be held inside for no one else to hear. This is your life. You only have one. So let your story be known. Let yourself be fully known so you can be fully loved. So anyway, that's where I had a big event in Kirkland at the Woodmark Hotel. And I knew after telling my own story, I was like, okay, I know some people who have been through some really serious stuff. Domestic violence, cancer survivor, losing a child to fentanyl poisoning, like one of near fatal car accident. One gal had to learn to walk and talk again after a brain aneurysm and stroke. And I'm like, these are really heavy things, but man, if they could tell their story, there's somebody, even if it's just one person, but there's multiple people out there going, yes, me too, me too. I needed to hear that. So I held this event, and I really wish it was more well attended, but like people have things to do, and how do you fit eight people with eight really powerful stories into one evening? So these stories were very condensed, and I tried to fit it all in one night, and each story was only allowed to be 8 to 10 minutes long, and I said, no, 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 no. I need to do this in long form. Let me start a podcast and create an avenue for people to tell their stories, and maybe even create a movement, So I
But
enjoy.
do you en-
Go ahead.
what do you envision that movement?
I envision, well, it's probably maybe a bit selfish, or maybe not selfish, but I just know for myself what it feels like to tell your story and how it can really free you. I envision it just being this, like, you have a story, so do I. Let's sit and tell each other. Now let's get other people to tell their stories. And then like almost like the energy and the momentum and the everything just starts to lift and uplift and join with each other, and bonding and loving, and I don't know. It might be kind of pie in the sky, but um I do enjoy listening to other storytelling podcasts. And I don't know if you want me to mention them.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I enjoy listening to other podcasts. Soft White Underbelly is one that I really enjoy. I have been glued to every single one of his videos on YouTube, and he has such an artistic way of asking questions and things. Another one is Cults to Consciousness. She has a really beautiful way of interviewing her storytellers of their journeys out of different types of cults and organizations, high demand religions and stuff. Yeah, so those are just a few of my favorite ones. But I don't know if I told you, but I am talking to Shalise Ansola with Cults to Consciousness. I don't know if you want to put this in there, but anyway.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's so exciting.
It's really exciting because I don't know, when different creators can collaborate, I feel like that's another big energy. Let's go, let's do this, let's grow, and support each other. So it's really cool. Anyway, so I have these friends who want to tell their stories, and I mean, I have a list 50 people long. I can't wait to just sit and just dialogue with them, ask them questions, dig deep, let them be vulnerable and safe, and then see what beauty rises from them telling their stories.
Deanna, this is so wonderful, and I'm with you on the storytelling. Now, I want to get to your interruption. So tell us about your interruption, or
Okay.
what the cause of your story was.
Sure. So I've had multiple interruptions in my life, but I'll tell you about the most significant one for me. The date was June 20th, 2012, a little over 13 years ago. And I celebrate that day every single year because that's my sobriety date. I hit rock bottom that day. And was actually coming out of the Blue Martini in Bellevue, which was it's not there anymore, but it was an old bar where they'd pour my wine glass all the way to the top. I couldn't even pick it up without the wine sloshing over the side. I'd have to lean over it to sip the wine out before I could pick the glass up. They were like, "Oh, Deanna's here." I drank all the time. And it was a gradual, like, growing. I started drinking when I was 16 to try to fit in with my friends and stuff, and because I was a little awkward growing up, especially in the real estate business. And in those days kind of leading up to that time in the industry, there was a lot of partying going on. I mean, not just drinking, there was drugs, there's just, like, a lot of money. There's just a lot of money. We were going on trips, throwing money around, yachts on Lake Washington, that kind of thing. So, and I had clients that I might not have gone out every single night with the same client, but each client that I saw once a month, you know, if I had 20 clients, I'm going out almost every night of the week, once a month, with each client. Anyway, so on rotation, but I'm drinking every day. So if you can imagine, like, your body builds up a tolerance, and I just didn't think I had a problem. I was this functioning alcoholic that just enjoyed drinking and hanging out with, and I was the life of the party. I was funny, I think. If I can remember, I was hilarious. And I think I felt like I had to drink to be funny, which is this is something that I realized, that Deanna can be funny and can have a great personality without alcohol. But I really had to learn that about myself when I hit rock bottom. So when I was coming out of the Blue Martini, I was not even out of the parking lot when the cops were right there, and they pulled me over and they were like, "Yeah, Deanna, this is one too many DUIs. You're going to jail." And I sat in jail for 90 days. That's 3 months sitting on a cot, watching other people come in and out of jail, getting out, and I'm still sitting here going, "What? What am I still doing here?" But that question, "What am I still doing here?" was one that I really needed to look inward and say, "There's a reason why I'm here, and I'm not getting out." I had to really get mad at alcohol for putting me there, you know? And it wasn't anybody else's fault. And it was my choices. That part was my fault. But the act of being so pissed off at alcohol really gave me like, enough anger for me to say, "I never want to see you again. Period. Don't ever come into my life again. Don't ever mess with me again. Like, you're out." The end. And that's always worked for me, you know? So I said, "F you to alcohol." That's what I say. I tell people. And I really took my sobriety seriously. I was going to AA meetings and in jail, and I read some books. One of them was The Purpose-Driven Life, where I started to realize that my worth, I wasn't to be looking for self-worth from other people. And my whole life was like, well, am I worthy to my parents? Am I worthy to these men, relationships, these friends that, there were friends over the years that didn't treat me right either, and I just was trying to find my worth in other things other than myself, And so very small steps. The other thing too that I want to say about my sobriety is I promised myself that I would never skip a step or try to cheat on anything, like make a wrong choice, even though I knew that making the right choice was the right choice. You know what I mean? The phrase "do the next right thing" was I took very seriously. So like my license was suspended for 3 years and I never tried to drive. I never tried to buy a car. I took the bus for 3 years on job interviews and when I got out of jail, I had to go 30 days inpatient treatment, which again, I took very seriously. When I got out of there, it was a 4 months sober, forced sobriety, which I needed. And then I was on probation. Now I'm taking the bus every day, but I was like over $200 in the red in my bank account. Like I was overdrawn in my bank account. I had no job, no car, nowhere to live. Thank God for my aunt. She let me move in with her. She picked me up from rehab and she was like, okay, well, I got a little bedroom for you. So I'm just kind of sitting there with my clothes and going, well, what do I do next? So I started interviewing for jobs. And, when you're taking the bus, you're planning hours in advance to get there. It's not like you just get in your car and you can just go and get there in a half an hour when you have an interview at 10 o'clock. You have to be on the bus by like 7:30 to make sure you're there before the interview starts. Because if you're late, then you look irresponsible. And a couple of these places, I was still kind of embarrassed to tell them that I had an ankle bracelet and I didn't drive here. And, you know, but a couple places that hired me were Nordstrom. I was very grateful for them. And then another place, I was selling timeshares. I hated that job. Oof, that was awful. But ultimately, I did get back into mortgages, which was a job that I walked to from the place that I was living. I would walk there and back. Yeah. And then wait tables at the restaurant that was on my way back and forth. I got a little night job there doing a little extra. So I knew I needed to save up for my car. But here I was just doing it the right way, even if it was baby steps, just taking the baby steps and knowing that I'd rather build a solid foundation, doing the right thing and building back my confidence and building back the trust that people had in me. Now, on my 1-year sobriety anniversary, I knew people were out there. Oh, poor Deanna, she this, the, and I'm like, no, no, no. I do not want people telling my story. I want to tell my story the way it's meant to be told. And I'm not going to let other people think they know something about what happened. And why is Deanna, why isn't she driving? Why is she taking the bus? Why does she have an ankle brace? I don't want them thinking they know any part of my story that's not true. So I was like, I'm just going to tell it all. I'm going to tell the whole truth about everything, even jail, what it was like being in jail, what it was like being in rehab, what it was like, why were the police waiting for me at the top of the parking lot in the Blue Martini? Well, it was because I was urinating in the parking lot. Okay. That's embarrassing to tell, but it's the truth. Okay. It's embarrassing, but it's the truth. And I don't want anybody out there saying, well, I heard this. Well, maybe you heard right, maybe you heard wrong. Here's the truth, And these are the embarrassing things we do when we're drunk. I've done a lot worse. So being in the parking lot is not the worst thing I ever did drunk, but we won't talk about all that. I mean, I could go on and on for hours, seriously. But truthfully, I just wanted to tell my whole truth. So that's what I did on my 1-year anniversary. I wrote an entire story about my arrest, my time in jail, about what it was like just mentally, the mental anguish you have sitting in incarceration. And I don't care which jail it is. Now, I was in Issaquah City Jail, but Issaquah is the nicest one you can be in, and it still was horrible. Horrible. I never want to go back there. Okay? Because they treat you like you're an animal in there. They don't care what your story is. A lot of them get lied to every day by people coming and going. They're trying, their automatic thing is you're trying to manipulate me into getting something. And I didn't do that, although I learned how from the other girls. But I mean, I don't know. It just was awful. It was awful. And then when you needed something if you were having cramps or whatever, the nurse was not readily there. They were only on certain days. So, if you had a headache or, really suffering from if you had severe cramping during your time, there's nothing. You're like, sorry, And there were some of the guards that were kind, especially to the girls who were detoxing from heroin. They really had the worst. They would scream all night because they were detoxing. And I like to describe that time in my life in 2012 because leading up to that, I had been through some religious trauma. I had been through multiple abusive relationships with men. I was married and divorced twice before I was even 30 years old. So that part, that really messes with your self-image and your self-worth. And, and when I also had a pretty bad boyfriend. When I say pretty bad, he was like really bad, the worst kind of boyfriend you could think of. I mean, I'll only just say the words P. Diddy, and then I'll let you uh, imagine what I'm talking about. But yeah, I've thought a lot about pressing charges over the years. And I've even had people who've known him over the years say that they would support me and stand by me. But I still haven't, especially since P. Diddy kind of got off on some of those charges. It's just one of those things where I'm like, is it worth it? I don't know. But I still hold some trauma from that time in my life. But, that really messes with your self-worth. And when you don't see worth in yourself and you're drinking all the time, and so you're already kind of depressed, and then you're making it worse with alcohol. And then I call it my drinking downward spiral. So when I hit rock bottom, I don't think I could have gotten any lower, to be honest with you, because I sat in the jail cell going, how did I get here? And I would stare for hours at the brick wall, going, how hard would I have to run and slam my head against that wall to just end it? So those were some really hard times. And I'm very thankful for the girls who would come in to hold the AA meetings. They were regular attendees of AA in Bellevue. So there was like Bellevue Noon Group and some of the evening meetings that were held at like St. Thomas Episcopal Church, and then there's like some other places that the uh, Alano Club, Alano Club, and so um, yeah, Tiffany, she would come and do AA meetings, and I just remember her curly black hair, and she's like, Deanna, when you're gonna get out of here, and when you get out of here, you just get right on that bus and you come on down to a meeting, and I'll be right there, and I'll introduce you to all my friends, and we're just gonna be, because this is our sober group. We're the cool kids. We do sobriety differently. And I'm like, okay, I believe you. I mean, what does life look like without alcohol, though? When that's all you've ever known almost every day for years and years. And how do you conduct business? How do you be social? How do you go on vacation without going swimming up to the swim up bar and ordering a Mai Tai? Like, how do you do it? How do you go to a Seahawks game and not order beer? How do you do it? I didn't know how. Okay, now it's a funny question because it's like, you just order a Coke, or you can order a seltzer water. But I didn't have that, like, that wasn't in my process. And it wasn't in my, active. I wasn't actively doing these things. So it didn't even seem like an option to me, which is so silly now. But I had to learn how to live a sober life and live a fun, sober life. And that's the cool thing about the sober groups in Bellevue, is they really know how to have fun and have sober fun. And so I was going to the camping trips, and, and I was hanging out. One of the gals, in one of the women's meetings, one gal said, pick somebody in the room, 'cause you got to pick your sponsor. Pick somebody in the room that you want, like they have the life that you want. It looks like they're living the life you like, and doing all the things you love, and they look the way you want to look, kind of fancy and stuff. And so I'm like, oh yeah, yeah. So I can tell you, I'm going to call her name out right now. Her name is Melanie Vargas. I still love her. with all of my heart. And I call her my sponsor, but she's just become such a dear friend. And even if we don't talk to each other for years, there could be years that pass by. And when we get on the phone, it's like we pick right back up where we left off. And she has supported me in such intense ways over the years, but she's amazing. But her life, man, she's fancy, she's beautiful, she's smart, she's hilarious, like that is my jam. So she had the life I wanted, and I just kind of, how do you do it? How do you hang out with your friends? Like, what if they go to a bar and that's where you're hanging out with them? Like, what if you're at a company dinner and they order a bottle of wine? Well, you just say, I'm not having any. So she's like, you just say, I'm not having any. I'm good with water, or I'll have an iced tea or something. And she even said, like, you could put the iced tea in the wine glass. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm like, oh, yeah, of course. Buying or selling real estate isn't just a transaction, it's personal. And that's why I like to treat my clients like their family. I'm Deanna Powell with the Intrepid Home Team at Realty One Group, Orca Gold in Bellevue, Washington. With over 25 years of experience in negotiations, mortgage, title, and escrow, I deliver a true VIP client experience on every transaction, whether it's residential, luxury homes, or land. I listen first, negotiate fiercely, and protect your best interest every step of the way. With offices and partners in all 50 U.S. states, plus 30 different countries and territories around the world, you can be confident that your real estate needs will be met in every and any area you make your move. If you want expertise, integrity, and results, call me today, Deanna Powell, with the Intrepid Home Team, because every move deserves VIP treatment. I can be reached on my mobile phone 425-777-6998 or email me at team@intrepidhometeam.com. Or you can visit my website www.intrepidhometeam.com. That's spelled INTREPIDHOMETEAM.com. So, another thing that helped me, the yuck sticker. You know the yuck sticker that you put on all the poison bottles in the house? I was like, put that yuck sticker on every single alcohol, anything with alcohol in it. Even if it's just imaginary, that imaginary yuck sticker is on that bottle, and I do not want that. Do not put any of that poison. So I would order, this is what I would do, because I still want to go to the bars with my friends, and I kind of tested myself a little bit. I don't know, not every alcoholic should do this, but I would go sometimes, and I'd go into the bars to watch the Seahawks games, and everybody be like drinking and all that stuff. And I'd order what I would usually order at the bar, because it used to be like a double vodka soda with a splash of lime or something like that. Oh, it's been a long time since I thought about that. And then I'd just say, but no vodka. Don't put the poison in it. I'd say it to the bartender. And what I realized too? Okay, you're going to relate, I think. The bartenders were like, oh, I'm sober too. I'm like, you are? So they're like, oh yeah, I know all the fancy drinks. I'm going to make you this. No alcohol, no poison, no poison. I got you. And so they'd make me this one with the umbrella and this one with the, with the slushy. And I'm like, ooh, these are good. You can have a mojito with no rum. It's good. It tastes really good. So then I got all into like non-alcoholic wines and non-alcoholic champagnes and all this stuff. And so, yeah, like I just think sober is cool. We're the cool kids. The sober people have our shit together right now. And it's actually become more cool to be sober, in my opinion, than it is to be out there drinking and doing that stupid partying stuff. Like if you really want to be successful and have the life that you see on TikTok and Instagram and all these things, you can't be drinking and doing all that. Like, let's get serious. How much money do you spend on alcohol every year? You really have to add it up sometimes. And you go, yeah, I could have bought a house with that and be rich by now. Like what was I thinking? But so here's how I describe my interruption. Okay. I was going in one direction. Like, let's say I'm coming this direction and I go, "Er," and I crashed rock bottom, arrested. I was, drinking. I hit rock bottom and I felt myself just right there, getting ready to shoot me off in a completely different direction. When I'm telling you, it was physical. That physical shift for me, I don't know, it's like a buzz in my body or something. I could feel it happening. I'm getting ready to write my own story. It's going to be my story. I get to tell it. I get to choose the next chapter. I get to choose who's in it. I get to choose what I do with my professional, my friends, my everything. And I'm going to do the next right thing. Oh, I'm going to start crying just thinking about it. It's so exciting. You know what I mean? That's such an exciting place to be because, I see people when they're like, I'm in the mud right now. I'm depressed. I'm having such a hard time. I'm not going to give up, but I'm really walking through some really heavy stuff right now. And I try to hold their hand and say, this is the most exciting time right now because your life is about to change in such drastic ways if you realize what's ahead. This is just the bad part. The good part's coming. And my favorite quote, this is my quote: the ball bounces higher the harder it hits the ground, right? It's good. You hit that ground hard, but your ball is about to bounce way up, and you get to kind of choose the direction it goes. And so just choosing the next right thing for me was really important, not skipping any steps, not being um not trying to cheat or be untruthful. Just wanted to tell the truth. Here it is. This is me, the raw Deanna. The people who will love me for me will be there. And the ones who don't, it's okay.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, you probably don't deserve to be in my life. And that's okay. You have your own thing going and it's probably healthier for me to not have you in my life. It's totally cool. Uh,
So when you put together this document or whatever and told your story, where did you put it?
oh yeah. So I wrote it out and it takes about 30 minutes to read through from beginning to end, but I put it on Facebook. I know. It was on my 1-year sobriety anniversary. And all of a sudden, I think I had over 800 likes. It's like 1 out of 4 of my Facebook friends saw it, read it, liked it. And then I probably had about half or maybe more, maybe 500 comments. Now, thank you for asking that question because I sometimes forget what that was like to have so many people commenting on the thing that I was so nervous about writing, and putting in there. Oh, Deanna, oh my gosh, that's incredible. How did you do it? Wow, I just have so much more respect for you now. I was like, you have more respect for me after he told you I beat in the, you know, and I was sitting in jail for 90 days. More respect? Okay. I mean, keep it coming, I'll take it, you know, and, wow, it was so freeing. And so I decided after that, it was sort of the thing I needed to keep going. Keep wearing that ankle bracelet, keep going to these job interviews, keep just doing the thing the right way. Oh, another thing too is I started volunteering. So AA is great. AA is really great for a lot of alcoholics. Now, for me, I would say that the way I stay sober, the best way I know how to stay sober is by volunteering. At the time, single, no kids. I could volunteer in every single day of the week, and I was sometimes. And so I picked search and rescue with Union Gospel Mission and Matt Talbot Center, and I was serving lunch at Matt Talbot Center, and I was inviting people and clients to come with me to go and do this volunteer and that volunteer, and animal shelters and foster kids and like all of the things. I probably volunteered. I had a running list of all the places I've volunteered at that time. And again, I'm taking the bus, but I probably volunteered at 80 different places, little over 80 different places. I have a list of all the nonprofits, local and international, though, because I raised some money to go to Ethiopia, which there were a few nonprofits that when my friend Laura and I went over there, we raised some money for the women and children in Ethiopia. But oh man, that's what keeps me sober. That process also, specifically with the foster kids organizations, was how I decided that instead of giving all of my love and my energy and all this, that I call it the love that comes out is oozing out. I have so much love to give that I'm giving it to the wrong people, not volunteering. Volunteering was the perfect place to do it, but I was giving it to men that didn't deserve it. And so I realized in volunteering with the foster and adoption agencies, that's when I realized that I wanted to be a mom. I was ready to be a mom, you know. I was ready to be the kind of mom that kids deserve. That's another part of my story, but that's really where I ended up, and where I am now is I'm a single mom by choice. I have one biological child as a single mom. I had her via IVF with donor sperm, and she has 9 donor siblings, which we are all in touch with all except for 2. 2 don't want to be contacted. They're in Perth, Australia, but everyone else we've met, and we have an ongoing relationship with each one. And she's amazing. Audrey is amazing. I named her after my grandfather, who's the land developer. His name was Audrey. And then when she was 2, I tried to get pregnant again because I had some embryos left over. I did get pregnant, but I had a miscarriage, or I had ectopic pregnancy, which was a lot harder to deal with. I don't want to say deal with, mourn. I mourned the loss of that pregnancy a lot. It was a lot harder than I thought it would be. And so through that process, I was like, okay, I'm ready to foster. I'm ready to foster. I'm going to be a foster mom. Got Audrey. It's just there's 2 of us. We're gonna bring these kids in and love them and just give them all of our love. And I was placed right away with a little boy. And then the adoption agency said, well, older sister is also legally free. So because little boy looks like he's going to be legally free pretty quickly. And actually, I was in touch with their birth mom because I just believe so much in biological ties ties to your biological family. So I actually met with her several times, and she struggled with drugs and a lifestyle that was, kind of dangerous. And so I just said, would you trust me to have an open adoption with you? You can see the kids anytime you want. We would see her every Mother's Day, both of the kids' birthdays, Christmas and Halloween, every single year. And she was like, yes. So I ended up getting placed with sister and brother siblings together to be adopted together to keep them together growing up. And so now I have 3 kids as a single mom, and I love it so much. I love it so, so much. Yeah.
What an amazing story, Deanna. I love your energy. I love your philosophies. And we're almost out of time, but I have a couple of questions. One is the name of your podcast again is,
Intrepid storytelling.
and you'll be able to get it on Apple or Spotify. And the second thing is, do you have a website that you want to share for anything or?
I don't have a website yet, but if anybody wants to tell their story on my podcast, they can email me and I'll send them the interview outline. The email is intrepidstorytelling@gmail.com.
Awesome. And she really interviews you. She lets you tell your whole story. So, Deanna, before we go, what is it that you really, really, really want us to know?
3 things. First, you are worth the life you envision. Don't ever tell yourself that you're not worthy of having the life you want. You have to start there. And once you say, yeah, I do deserve that life and I want it. And if you want it bad enough, there is a way to get it. And even if it doesn't come fast and it comes slow, you can have the life. I wanted to be a mom. I never thought I was going to be a mom, especially after the failed divorces, failed marriages and stuff. I just thought I was never going to be a mom. And then I realized, oh, I can be a single mom. Wait a second. I can have a family. And it was like the whole sky opened up and the sun shone on me. And it's like, wait a second. Yes, I can have that life. And I want it. I want that life. I'm going to go get it. So nothing's stopping you. I mean, it's so cliche. If you can dream it, you can achieve it. But it's true. It's totally true. And the last thing I will say is don't ever give up. Because as in AA, they say, don't quit before the miracle. And the miracle's right there. It is within reach. And especially if you've hit that, your ball has hit the ground really hard, it's about to just bounce like crazy. And if you want my support, you just want an ear to listen to your story, I am here. I love it. I find value in every single person's story. And if I could interview every single person on earth, sign me up every day. Just call me. Let's record it. Let's get it out to the world and see how many people you inspire.
Oh, I love it. Well, Deanna, it's been so wonderful walking this podcast journey with you. And that's how we met. And I have learned so much in the process as well. And so I'm so grateful to you. And thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for all of your support, advocacy, and guidance through launching my podcast, because I'm so excited. I couldn't have done it without you. So I truly, truly appreciate you as well.
Thank you.
If today's story moved or inspired you, please take a moment to share this episode with someone who needs a spark of courage. Your 5-star rating and short review help these brave, courageous, and resolutely fearless stories reach even more hearts. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss an episode of Intrepid Storytelling. Thanks for listening.